Choke job, Cole. Choke jobs all over the NFL in the divisional round. It was brutal to watch some of those games that we saw over the past weekend. Teams that looked like they were built to make a deep run in the playoffs, maybe make it to the Super Bowl and win the whole thing, and then just couldn't get it done. They choked.
I didn't know where you were going with that for a second. I was like, wait a minute, are we live? We keeping this thing PG? But you're right. You know what? We live in a world where you place blame, right? And that's just like, for whatever reason, certain analysts, certain people, Diesel, they don't like when we place blame on people for losing games. But you're right. I mean, there were a couple of choke jobs, and at the end of the day, the players and the coaches get paid millions of dollars not to choke. And there were some choke jobs this week.
Yeah, I love placing blame. I love pointing directly at who it was that I thought screwed up the most and explaining that right there is the reason why this ball game didn't go the way that the fans wanted it to, Cole. So the question is, out of the big games that we saw this weekend, what was the biggest choke job? Was it the Baltimore Ravens, Lamar, and more importantly, the one who I'm pointing the finger squarely at, Mark Andrews, or was it the entire Lions team, specifically looking at the quarterback position there? It was just both of those games were ugly to watch, Cole, especially the Lions game. That was just bad football.
Listen, I'll tell you this. I know that there are a lot of people that are going to throw a lot of hate towards Lamar Jackson. And was Lamar Jackson perfect the other night?
You mean Frozone?
Frozone. That's bad. Listen,
I mean, come
like
on.
I say, though,
he looks exactly like Frozone.
He's going to get that criticism, right?
Yep.
He threw an interception. He was not perfect. So if you have to give me an opportunity to have a blame pie or however you want to classify it, Diesel, in that pie, I would 100% agree with you and whoever else that wants to make Mark Andrews the majority of the pie.
A blame pie, is that a sweet pie or a savory pie?
No, it's neither.
It's a bitter pie.
Yeah, it's bitter. It doesn't taste good because somebody has to get the blame. But that's my point, though. Like, you have, like, when you lose games, I get the Mark Andrews got you there and Lamar got you there. I understand that. But in order for that team to go from good to great, to get to the next level, there has to be blame. How else do you get better in life?
Yeah, I mean, the Ravens for the longest part of that game, Cole, looked pretty ineffectual, couldn't get a whole lot done. And then all of a sudden, with 8 minutes to play, down 5 points, they find something. They start putting things together. They're moving down the field. Lamar Jackson hits Mark Andrews for a big gain, first down play. He makes the turn, and then boop, there goes the ball bouncing across the snowy field. A lot of credit goes to the Bills linebacker, Terrell Bernard, who poked that ball out. But, I mean, come on. That was the Ravens' third turnover of the game. They finally put something together to overcome all of the mistakes that they had prior to that. And then he just puts the ball on the turf. It was hard to watch.
My biggest takeaway when you're talking about blame was Lamar Jackson the greatest did he play the greatest he'd ever played? No, he had one interception. He did throw for 254 yards. He was 18 of 25, 2 touchdowns, pretty good QBR, pretty good quarterback rating. Again, the one interception was costly. However, what did I say a couple of days ago, Diesel, before we went into the weekend? I said in tight games, it's more about who makes less mistakes than it is who makes bigger plays. Again, it's about who makes less mistakes in tight games, in big games. It's all about limiting your mistakes. Buffalo limited their mistakes better than Baltimore did. If Baltimore was playing in a regular season game, they might have won this game. However, things are tight in the postseason. Diesel, Mark Andrews on that 2-point conversion after Lamar put together a magnificent drive. Mark Andrews turned around, and that football hit Mark Andrews right in the hands, and he dropped it.
I'd cut him.
I'd cut him.
Leave
him on the field.
Get out of here.
I know that's
I'd
dramatic.
send him to the locker room right there.
How do you not catch that? Look, you can blame Lamar. I personally don't. Blame Lamar because he went down the field. Now, I'll tell you what I blame. I blame the coaches a little bit as well because in that game, I was watching that game with some friends. They elected to go for 2 in the third quarter. They didn't get it, so that put them in a position to where if Buffalo scored, they'd be down 8 instead of 7. If they kicked the PAT, guess what? They wouldn't have had to throw it to Mark Andrews right there at the end of the game. They could have kicked the PAT there and tied it up. Baltimore was good, but guess what? It all comes down to Buffalo made less mistakes.
Yeah, it's a string of bad decisions that put them in a position where they had to press, and then inevitably something goes wrong. That the football is cold. Your hands are cold.
Yep.
The Buffalo Bills crowd comes into play, and again, linebacker makes a big-time play, ball's on the turf, and that's basically ball game at that point, Cole. Compare that to what we saw in the Lions game, in the Lions-Washington game, and I put that squarely on the quarterback, Jared Goff.
Oh, boy, I'll tell you this.
Don't you? I mean, how many interceptions did he throw? 9?
I think it was ridiculous. 10. No, I don't disagree with you. Okay, so if we're going to go back to the blame pie for the Detroit Lions,
Gotta cut out a big slice of that blame pie.
You got to cut out a big slice. Here's what I'll say, though. They had injuries defensively that I talked about last week that I was concerned about. They gave up 45 yards. Now, you say, well, Detroit scored 31. They did. However, when you look at the team stats and total yards, the Washington Commanders put up 481 yards. You were in a position offensively, Diesel, where you put up 521 yards. And still, think about that as a football coach. If you, Diesel, are coaching a team and you put up 521 yards, you should win the game, right?
Yeah. Well, imagine being Jahmyr Gibbs, who was ridiculous in that game.
He was.
Nobody could stop him. Nobody could bring him down. And then just watching your quarterback make mistake after mistake after mistake. I mean, you can't turn it over in your own territory. You can't fumble in your own territory. And then you throw multiple interceptions, 3 turnovers in the first half. It was just bad football from the Lions. Despite all of that, they were still relatively in a position where they could make this thing a ball game. But I think Washington did so much more to win that game. Sure. I thought they were phenomenal. I thought they were gutsy. I thought going for it on 4th down inside the 5 and converting was huge. Mm-hmm. Of course, there was that see. Here's where I lean. Lions lost it more than the Commanders won it, because through all of that, even though they had the lead, the Commanders did, the Lions were just making dumb mistake after dumb mistake. 12 players on the field on a 4th down play inside the 5. How do you do that? That is inexcusable.
Sure.
Who is sending these guys out onto the field? Who is not counting how many players you have in formation? And then, of course, there was the interception on the trick play. Both of those are unforgivable. I put this squarely on Dan Campbell. I put this squarely on the offensive staff for not paying attention in the biggest game of their season. And they just choked. They lost it.
Well, quarterback plays where it all starts and where it all ends, right? How often do you and I talk about quarterback play, Diesel, at every level, at the pro level, at college level, high school? Quarterback play matters. And look at the quarterback play in this game. Jaden Daniels, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, Diesel. Mm-hmm. Jared Goff, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. And by the way, Jaden Daniels was not sacked 1 time on Saturday. He wasn't sacked 1 single time. Detroit defensively was just horrible. They had no pass rush. The secondary was banged up. I know they had a lot of injuries, and you can't dismiss injuries. But the entire mantra of postseason football, welcome to it, Detroit. This is what I have. This is what I've been trying to say all year. You remember how many times you and I talked about Detroit, and I would say, well, yeah, they're good, but they're peaking now. Does it matter? Does it matter when you peak? I'm a Cowboys fan. I know all about it. Peaking in September and October and November, it doesn't translate and equal playoff success. The playoffs, what people don't understand, the playoffs are a completely different animal.
The pressure is ratcheted up so much.
Jared Goff was horrible. He looked like L.A. Jared Goff. Dan Campbell looked like, a poor man's I don't even want to criticize any other coach by throwing that. I mean, he was not good.
Well, as a matter of fact, here in cut number 4 is Dan Campbell admitting to just the mistakes that were on his Lions team that cost him the game.
Maybe.
Ben, we can't hear it.
Cut 4?
Cut 4. Ben?
I can pretend like I'm.
Well,
You're terrible. You're terrible, dude.
come on, Dan Campbell. You're like 6'9", 300 pounds. It's not my fault, man. I just feel bad for my players. He goes on to say in cut number 5 here that it's been just been a long season. We're tired. All right, I think we might have the same cut there playing between cuts 4 and 5. But I mean, come on, Dan. This is your job. This is what you do for a living. You're an NFL coach. You're a multi-millionaire at this point. You make probably $6-7 million a year to do this. Now's not the time, guys. So it's too soon.
I'll say this about this whole playoff losing thing, and I know Madcraft, one of our loyal Tolos, we got into it on Twitter over the weekend, and this is what
really.
Yeah.
You too?
Shocker, right? This is what I want people to understand. Losing in the postseason, like, there's no way to explain it. My team this season did not, Diesel, make the postseason, the Cowboys. However, I'm used to losing the postseason every year. It sucks. It hurts. Because when you go into the postseason, here's what's so hard about it. Here's where I do understand where Dan Campbell's coming from. You go in thinking it's a brand new slate. We have a chance to go win the ultimate game, go win the Super Bowl. We've had this incredible regular season. And I think that's where it's so difficult because the regular season's so good. Guess what you have to show for it? One bleepy playoff game.
Well,
one bleepy play. That's what it boils down to.
I have a brand new newfound theory about that, Cole, that if you've got a young team, you're just not prepared to be in the playoffs because you haven't been in that position as a professional, right? In the sense that every week's not an elimination game. Doesn't matter if you lose. You know, if you find yourself at 5-4, 9 games into the season, it's okay. You can still make playoffs. There's no urgency. And then you get into the playoffs and you're suddenly put into a single elimination tournament.
I love it.
Where if you lose, you're out. And I do wonder, Cole, how that's going to affect college football because they had always been in a lose and you're out effectively early in the season before the playoff expanded to 12. Now that things are changing, now that the stakes are lowered just a little bit, how will that affect how teams play in the playoffs? Are they going to be prepared to be put into situations like that?
But you know what's crazy about it? What's just absolutely wild? Think about this. The Detroit Lions, and again, I'm not just bagging on them to bag on them because it's hard to win playoff games, but they had not a good regular season. They had a historical regular season. Like literally broke records throughout the course of the regular season. And look,
so did the Patriots the year they went undefeated.
Right. I've seen teams in the NFL, Diesel, be ultra successful during the regular season, but for whatever reason, when it all comes down to one single postseason game, when it comes down to one playoff game where you have to take that regular season, bottle it up, and replicate it in one game, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't. People, I think the biggest thing that people miss and don't understand about the game of football at any level, football is all about matchups, individual matchups. You can say, oh, well, this team lost to this team and we beat that team, so that means that we should beat that team. Diesel, it doesn't work that way. Football's about matchups, and it doesn't matter what you did in the regular season. And I'm not saying that the regular season doesn't matter, but let's talk about the Lions, for example. their regular season does not matter one single bit when they get into the postseason, because the matchups they faced against Washington are completely different, and it's a completely new season. You lose, you're out. And I just think that that's what people don't understand. It's all about the matchups in that one game, and anything can happen.
Well, I do think that the Lions fans are in for a rough next couple of seasons. Maybe Dan Campbell can get it done. Maybe he can bring on a competent OC, and they can be really good, because they've clearly got talent on that side of the football. But, of course, now we know that Ben Johnson is headed off to Chicago to be the head coach of the Chicago Bears. Think about this, Cole. Dave Tepper really wanted Ben Johnson in Charlotte, and half of the roster that he would have coached in Carolina is now in Chicago. So he's up there where he's familiar. He's got a lot of the same players. I mean, Dave Tepper is going to watch the coach he wanted probably win with the players he once had, and that he would have been coaching.
I think Ben Johnson was highly sought after, and you know what? The move for him to Chicago, it didn't surprise me. I didn't find that surprising at all. Here's the deal when it comes to Ben Johnson staying in Detroit. You might argue, well, Ben Johnson, he had a good spot. He had a good job in Detroit. Why would he leave? Well, a few things. Number one, money, obviously, to your point. Number two, everyone wants to be a head coach. And you know that when you reach the ultimate level of success in the NFL, you want a fresh start. The Lions have been very successful the last 2 years. They've won a lot of football games. And I felt like Ben Johnson probably was to the point where he wanted that challenge for himself. He saw Dan Campbell do it. He's been around a lot of really good coaches, and I don't blame him. I know Chicago's kind of a sucky situation. There's a lot of challenges, as he talked about. However, you want that challenge, and that's the process. Like, that is the NFL in an outcome-driven league, but the process of going and trying to find that success.
But Ben Johnson has been in Detroit while they've brought back a sucky situation to a good situation. Now he's going in with some pretty decent talent on that Chicago Bears team. I mean, I'm not sold on Caleb Williams. I don't think you are either.
Not yet.
There's a chance, Cole, that maybe Ben Johnson can do something with Caleb Williams. I mean, Jared Goff wasn't like this savior of a quarterback when he came to Detroit.
Yeah.
He was good, but he wasn't elite. So if he can get that type of performance out of somebody that's, what is he, probably 15 years younger than Jared Goff, 10 years younger than Jared Goff, then you might have something. Or if it doesn't work out, guess what? You just go draft somebody a couple years from now.
And I don't know about to your point about Caleb Williams. I don't know. Like, I'm not sold on him, but I also want to see, is Ben Johnson good enough of a coach to go in and transform that situation and take Caleb Williams to the next level? Well, maybe he is, but there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of challenges there.
Well, Cole, I've said on this show before that I'm willing to be petty from time to time. I went back on a reel that we put up on YouTube where I said drafting Caleb Williams is a bad idea, run away, don't go after that guy, and all these comments.
I remember that.
Calling me a hater, saying that I was stupid, that our show sucks because there's idiots on the show doing stuff. And I just went back and replied to every single one of them with a little look at that eyeball emoji. Caleb Williams was not good this year.
No.
The Bears were not good this year. So, yeah, I'll absolutely go back in the comment section and rip on people. We're at 1524 Locust Hill Road in Greer, inside the Corner Cafe of Ingalls Markets. We want to see you here today. We've got a Fan Upstate t-shirt left on the table. Evan's over there running things on the promotional side, getting you hooked up with some fun prizes as well. Of course, you can just come and see us. Now, reminder, we're off at 5:30 today, truncated show, because Furman basketball is on the Fan Upstate tonight.
And the star of the show just walked in the building.
Yeah, I saw her on TV the other day.
The star of the show. I mean, the entire place just gravitates as soon as she walks in. Always good to see Melissa and the folks at Ingalls Diesel. You're right, we are at Ingalls. We'll be here all afternoon until 5:30. But let's get into the national championship game in the very next segment. Tolos, need to hear from you. You've been a little sleepy to start the show today. We need to step that up. National championship thoughts, Ohio State, Notre Dame. Want to get into that conversation, in the very next segment. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson, and this is the Fan Upstate. 34-23, Ohio State national champions. Diesel and I both predicted the Buckeyes to win. A lot of the Tolos did as well. I believe Melissa Level even picked Ohio State. It felt like one of those games, one of those national championships, Diesel, where for the most part, people had a pretty good read on the game, how it would go. Notre Dame made a late surge. However, it was 31-7 at one point. And after that 31-7 lead for Ohio State, the game kind of slowed down, kind of got a little bit boring. Notre Dame made a late surge, but Riley Leonard, Marcus Freeman, Diesel, a great story, just not enough in the end to overcome what was, in my opinion, just way too much firepower from the Buckeyes.
Yeah, it was a big game of streaks. I mean, Notre Dame won the first quarter 7-0, and then Ohio State just kept putting it on for the rest of the game. Third and fourth quarter, I mean, if you just looked at the second half of that game, that was a compelling football game. The problem, Cole, was that they couldn't get it. Notre Dame couldn't get anything going on the ground. Their running back, Love, was non-existent in that game, just non-existent. Yeah, he was coming off an injury, but if he was injured, don't let him play, right? How do you have such an elite running back and get shut down to the tune of, I think he had less than 5 yards in the game?
Well, again, what does that go back to? The same thing that we talked about at the end of the year for Clemson, right? Like, you got a good quarterback, you got a good defense, but when you get to this point in the season, if you want to win a national championship, Diesel, you have to be able to run the football. You have to be able to play good defense. And Will Howard, look, 17 of 21, 231. He was good enough. I said it so many times last week. He doesn't have to be Superman because he has so much talent. On the flip side, to your point about Notre Dame not being able to run the ball, Ohio State did. They ran for over 200 yards offensively. Will Howard, 57 yards by himself. Quinshad Junkins, 2 touchdowns, 100 yards. Diesel, Jeremiah Smith, maybe the best receiver in the country, 5 receptions, 88 yards and a touchdown. So, look, I just think when you talk about firepower, this is what we expected. Did it scare me that Ohio State kind of got a little lackadaisical late? I said, oh, boy, please keep this thing on track. Ultimately, though, when you talk about championships, the old mantra of defense winning championships, that still reigns true. However, you've got to have the offensive firepower. Notre Dame didn't. They just didn't have that firepower on the roster this year.
Yeah, we kind of looked at this game and thought, wow, Ohio State just has so many weapons. Now, if Ohio State didn't play to their standard, certainly Notre Dame could probably get away without playing a perfect game. The problem is Ohio State in that second quarter was just so good, and they were getting those big-time plays when they absolutely needed them. And, of course, just that late long throw to Smith was just Jeremiah Smith was just a heartbreaker for Notre Dame. It felt like, oh, my God, are they going to come back? Oh, my God, are they going to make this thing a football game? And then you let you put Jeremiah Smith out there by himself on a one-on-one, and Notre Dame's DB just got absolutely toasted.
I want to hear from you, Tolos, as well. I about said it. I about said the old text line. That just is a good reminder to you, Tolos, out there. There is one number now, the same number you use to call and text the show. If it starts with a 7 and it's in your phone, delete it. The number is 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-326-3663. Let's get into the national championship game, Tolos. Want to hear from you. Phone lines are open. Your thoughts. Ohio State, again, national champions, 34-23. I think that something that will maybe not get talked about enough, Diesel, is the addition of Chip Kelly to this Ohio State roster as offensive coordinator. I think Chip Kelly's play design is magnificent. I think it absolutely takes Ohio State from good to great. Now, does he keep his foot on the gas as much as I'd like him to? No. I think they could have absolutely blown Notre Dame out. However, if you look at the play design and the creativity, especially the first touchdown to Jeremiah Smith, Chip Kelly is a huge part or a huge reason as to why they did win a national championship. The very first Jeremiah Smith touchdown, Diesel, it was beautiful. Pre-snap motion. Will Howard takes the snap, fakes it to the tight end, fakes it to the running back. Jeremiah Smith, is coming in motion from right to left behind the quarterback. And about the time he gets to the quarterback, he plants his foot in the ground, takes a hard reverse, and when he reverses back to the right side of the line of scrimmage, he's wide open. I thought it was an NFL-like play call from Chip Kelly, obviously spending a lot of time in the NFL. He was magnificent, and when you combine that talent with a really good play caller, now we can quit talking about Ryan Day as much as we have.
It begs the question, Cole, how many times have we, all of us, questioned why a team took their foot off the gas? You'll see a team get up big by 3 scores, maybe 24 points, 3 scores and a touchdown, or 3 scores and a field goal, and all of a sudden they get conservative when everything is going well for you. Why do you change what's working?
Yeah.
And it's infuriating to watch. I understand why you want to get conservative and protect the lead that you have and let your defense do its job. But, man, it's so hard, I think, to turn it back on if you get cold for a quarter because you've decided to go conservative. And then all of a sudden, wow, this team's put up 14 points quickly. Now we got to figure out how to turn this offense back on. Sometimes, for whatever reason, it takes time to get that gear turning again. Let's go to the phone lines right now and hear from Dewey. What does Dewey have to say about the national championship game?
Talk good about my commander.
Well, losing to Michigan, if you're Ohio State, is pretty much a given, right? And congratulations, by the way. Thanks, Dewey. Congratulations to the Michigan Wolverines for, by the transitive property winning a second straight national championship.
Right.
That's really big for them. Really, really proud of what they were able to accomplish this year. I really got Buckeye Mike going with that one on Twitter. Because people love using the transitive property. Well, we beat this team, who beat that team, who beat that team. I mean, theoretically, in that sense, what Northern Illinois can claim to have played in the national championship game. Why not count that?
You know what? I'll tell you this. We spend a lot of time talking about Ryan Day, right? I viewed, and I believe you did as well, I viewed Ryan Day prior to this game, regardless of what happened, I viewed Ryan Day as an elite football coach, one of the best in the business, right? However, sometimes in life, sometimes you have to have those championships to kind of validate who you are, right? There are a lot of coaches, though, Diesel, who have never won a championship, who are really good coaches. So that doesn't go to say that he needed this championship. However, I think the fact that he did get it does take a lot of the conversation away from what would have been. I mean, we talked about it. What if the expanded playoff wasn't until next season? Would Ryan Day even have a job going into next season after the Michigan loss, not getting in the 14 playoff? Who knows? So this expanded playoff, we thought came at the right time for Kalen DeBoer. It turns out that it came at the right time for Ryan Day. Now I believe a lot of the talk, I know the Michigan losses still stink. A lot of the talk, I think, can come off of Ryan Day. I think he's kind of earned it now.
A good question is, how many more Michigan losses has Ryan Day just earned by winning a national championship game? It doesn't make sense, but Ohio State fans are the way that they are. And I'm telling you, man, just could you imagine, for the sake of argument here, if Ryan Day and Ohio State loses to Michigan for 2 more years in a row? Could you imagine that? Would they fire a national championship winning coach for losing to Michigan? How many straight losses would that be to Michigan?
6?
Yeah,
is that right?
Six straight losses to your heated rival, a national championship sprinkled in the middle, and some Ohio State fans would want him gone, right?
Yeah.
They would want to see his career dead and buried in Columbus, Ohio. It doesn't make any sense, but it is the way that it is. We're at 1524 Locust Hill Road in Greer. We've heard from Leprechaun of Lyman, who says he may be stopping by to say what's up. I hope, Leprechaun of Lyman, you still have your green hat, because you talked about being at one of our clients over at Dave & Buster's wearing that green hat for the Penn State game. I hope you're going to come in wearing that. That way we can spot you. But of course, I mean, I understand if you come in with some sort of a paternity test that says Ohio State is your daddy. We'll know that it's you.
I think there's a lot of people who just for whatever reason they don't like admitting that Ohio. I saw a lot of this on Twitter. They don't like admitting that Ohio State deserved this, because they had a very expensive roster, the most expensive roster going into the season. However, I think you have to give credit where credit's due here, because even though Ryan Day was expected to win the national championship this year, expectations aren't reality. You still have to go out and do it. And guess what? Ask around. Ask a next-door neighbor in college football. Just because you have expectations, it doesn't translate to postseason success and winning championships. So for Ryan Day to go out here and do this, I think that Ohio State deserves a ton of credit. Their first championship since 2014, Diesel. They were the first team in the college football playoff era to ever win a national championship. Now they're the first team in the college football playoff expanded era to ever win a national championship. It's one of the biggest schools in the country. Everybody hates them. It's kind of like the Cowboys, right? You either love them or hate them. And I think Ohio State deserves a ton of credit. Now, can they continue to – here's what's going to be interesting. Can they continue to rival and compete year in and year out, even though they're the Ohio State University? Will Michigan, with Dave Portnoy money and Barstool money and the quarterbacks that's coming in, will Michigan be able to rival them consistently enough? I think this rivalry is going to continue to be at the forefront of college football. I know the SEC doesn't, but I love it. I love these Big Ten teams being in the national championship.
And I've seen it argued, Cole, that having the most expensive roster money could buy, or the most expensive roster in college football history somehow cheapens a national championship. No, it doesn't. Everybody else is playing under the same rules. Everybody else is buying players.
Yep.
Everybody's playing under the same structure. Some are just better at it. Some have more resources than others.
100%.
And the games ultimately have to play out. But the truth is, Cole, when you can buy the best player at every position and you can buy the second best player at every position, you start building up a tremendous amount of depth, and it helps you when you got a game where Jeremiah Smith only gets one reception. All of a sudden, boom, you can toss it out to a bunch of different guys, and they can pick up a ton of yards and help you win football games. Cole, what did you think of Kirk Herbstreit crying on television immediately following the game? I mean, he was asked by, I believe it was Scott Van Pelt, what it meant to him to watch Ohio State win another national championship, him being an Ohio State alum, him having played quarterback at Ohio State. I've seen a lot of people say that Kirk shouldn't even been allowed to call that game, which I think is
dumb.
It's dumb.
He calls everything. Yeah.
Here's the audio of Kirk Herbstreit getting emotional. Cut number 7, Ben. Kirk Herbstreit getting emotional after that championship game. And he bounces off screen, and he's wiping his tears away. First of all, I call into question the, quote, incredibly objective.
Yeah.
Kirk, no, you're not. You're not incredibly objective about anything. So stop with that nonsense right there. But, I'm happy that, think about this. Getting to call your alma mater winning a national championship, I think is a beautiful thing, Cole, and it's very rare that, number one, you're good enough at your playing to even play at a big-time program, and then you're good enough at your profession to be calling national championship games. It's just, I mean, I don't think I'd be able to handle it either.
I think it had more to do with his son being there and the health, the health scares that his son has gone through the past couple of months and years, with his son having to have a heart transplant, and then his wife having breast cancer and really being, in a
losing
tough
his
place,
dog.
losing his dog a couple of months ago. So I think him being emotional probably has more to do with just the culmination of everything that he's had to go through, everything that's going on in his personal life over the past few months leading up to this, kind of like not making all that other stuff worth it, because that stuff was still it's still in a completely different category of being difficult, Diesel, but it does help. Like, sports are a getaway, and whatever you're going through in life, people use sports as that drug, right? As that drug to be able to say, hey, this makes, what I've gone through a little bit better. And I think that's what it was. I'm not the biggest Kirk Herbstreit guy, so I'm not going to sing praises for him. But I don't, for him getting emotional, I'm not going to sit up here and bash him because it's a tough place to be.
I've also got a personal grudge against Kirk Herbstreit that's 15 years in the making, and it is what it is. Trey from Kentucky says, Notre Dang. I can't say that word on the radio, Trey, but he says Notre Dang. Enough said. Another texter here says Alonzo, making y'all talk about Ohio State. Well, first of all, his name is Lonzo.
He gets called that a lot.
But he does get called Alonzo a lot. Like Alonzo Mourning, the former center of the Charlotte Hornets. Are you talking about Alonzo, Denzel Washington's character from Training Day? What are you talking about? His name is Lonzo. Another texter says, can't hear callers or anything but you on the stream. Ben, can we check and make sure that any channels that we're playing over the air are in utility so that the listeners can hear us talk about that?
Tony on Facebook, shout out to my wife, Kim Burton, bakery manager at This Ingles. She gets all of your eats together. So shout out to Kim. Appreciate you sending that message, Tony. As Diesel pointed out a few minutes ago, we are live at 1524 Locust Hill Road in Greer. So if you are in the area, come by, say hello, talk a little sports with us. We'll be here till 5:30 because Furman basketball does have an early start tonight. But for another hour and a half or so, we'd love to see you.
When we come back, Cole, the ACC is considering what could end up being a monumental change to its championship game format. The question is, number one, is it a good idea? Number two, should other conferences follow suit? Could the ACC be bearing the standard? Could they be leading the way in a massive shift coming to college football? We'll talk about that on the other side of the break right here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson, 97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg, and everywhere you are on the free Odyssey app.
it all. 844-326-3663. That's 844-FAN-PHONE. This is Wire to Wire with Cole, Bryson, and Diesel on the Fan Upstate.
Cole, we very well may see the number one team in the ACC not play in the conference championship game going forward. This was an article posted a couple of days ago on ESPN.com by Andrea Adelson, longtime ESPN contributor. Really love her work. She is saying that ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips said on Sunday that the league will have conversations among coaches and athletic directors about whether to make changes to its conference championship game format. To keep it as simple as possible, Cole, the regular season champ would get an automatic pass and get the league's automatic bid into the college football playoff, not even have to play in the conference championship game. And then number 2 and number 3 would play it off for, I guess, the right to get the second spot in the playoff.
It's odd.
Yeah.
It's something that we're not used to, the regular season just bypassing the conference championships. Now, initially, I don't think I'm a fan of it. However, it'll be interesting to see if other conferences kind of look at that as a good idea because of now the last, 4 years, the conference champion or the national champion not even being a conference champ. So maybe looking at conference championship games is semi-pointless. Well, I don't know. It has to grow on.
Well, we've had the argument for the past couple of months, Cole, that the conference championship games are meaningless because win or lose, both of these teams, especially when you're talking about the SEC and the Big Ten, even the ACC this year, you know that they're going to get into the playoffs. So really, what actual weight does the conference championship game hold? None at this point. Plus, you're falling back on a body of work, an entire season's worth of work for the number one team in the conference. I don't know how they're going to figure this out if there's a tie at the top of the conference, but hey, I'm sure they have their ways of figuring that out. I actually love it, Cole. I think it's brilliant because you're making your regular season matter most. That team automatically goes forward, and then you're talking about having the second and third best teams in your conference. When you're a conference that's on the brink of not getting a third team in, only looking at 2 teams, Cole, now you're talking about getting a high-level data point when it really, really matters. And what's up? Rick and Greer just showed up.
Data points.
Yeah, he shows up and brings us some Krispy Kreme donuts. Man.
How about that? Is that 2 Ingles appearances in a row?
That's 2.
We've seen Rick and Greer.
No, I love this because now you're talking this year it would have been Clemson versus Miami. Madcraft would finally be put in his place and he could stop complaining about this Miami team got hosed. Well, now we get a chance to see the team that jumped them play Miami head-to-head for the right to go into the 12-team playoff. I think it's brilliant, and Cole, I think all these conferences are going to follow suit.
They may. We'll see. It should be really interesting. Tolos, want to hear from you. Phone lines open in the very next segment. 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-326-3663. Want to get back into the NFL divisional rounds. A couple of surprises. Some really good games this weekend. But, Tolos, want to hear from you. Text line open. Got to get that text line going. Been a little slack on this Wednesday. I know Diesel and I were out yesterday, both recovering from a little bit of sickness. But, Tolos, we need your participation. Want to hear from you. Get your thoughts. Go back and forth with you. We're also live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Hour number 2 coming up next. All right, Tolos, we really need your help here. Rick and Greer, who just walked away, he brought some delicious Krispy Kreme donuts by for Diesel and I, which we didn't eat any. We didn't eat any of those donuts, did we? No. We just looked at them and smelled them.
So Eagles donuts are better.
They are better. Thanks, Rick, for bringing them by, first of all. But Tolos, this is where we need your help. Audience out there. Tolo stands for Turn On, Leave On, by the way. If you're a new Tolo and didn't know what that meant, Rick showed up with an AFC championship ring, Diesel, and claims that he was on the practice squad, claims that he received the ring, and you and I are very what was it? AFC champion. We're very little pessimistic. Not really believing.
I think he stole it off a dead guy.
Well, we're trying to figure out. So we have to have the Tolos weigh in to see if Rick and Greer really did take the ring or did he earn the ring. I don't know, man. I don't know if I believe that or not. Rick and Greer on the practice squad.
I think he found it in Gollum's cave.
I think he bought it from somewhere as a Bills fan, and he walked away. So he can't hear us talking trash about him right now, but we do appreciate the Krispy Kreme donuts.
I think you can scratch it on some sort of scratch pad to see if the gold's even real. Is it gold plated?
We should test it. And see. But look, everybody knows Rick and Greer because we are at Ingalls in Greer off of Locust Hill Road. If you are in the area, we'd love to see you. Swing by, talk a little sports with us as Rick and Greer did. You can even get you giving autographs today, Rick? Not today. Never mind.
No photos either.
No photos. No, scratch that. No autographs from Rick and Greer. So if you're in the area, work or live over here in Greer, want to see the Greer Tolos. Today. Again, Furman basketball getting an early start today, Diesel.
It's kind of uncommon for this to happen.
Usually a 7 o'clock start, but a 6 o'clock tip for Furman basketball today. So we'll be off in an hour and a half from
taking on the VMI Keydets on the road with Dan Scott on the call coming up here at 5:30.
It's gonna be fun to watch. Furman obviously had a bounce back win, so we'll talk to Dan Scott later to see if he can hop on. But appreciate you Tolos for being with us on this Wednesday, this wire to wire edition. Diesel, we started the show with a little bit of NFL talking about the teams that choked, but it was a really interesting weekend as the Commanders, as the underdog, upset the Detroit Lions 45-31. We talked about that. And then the Kansas City Chiefs 23-14 over the Houston Texans. Look, we can get into the Mahomes stuff with Troy Aikman because it is interesting. That was also Saturday. I think most people expected the Chiefs to win, but we're pulling for the Texans. And then the other two games on Sunday, which were, by the way, maybe two of the best games I've watched in a very long time. Eagles 28-22 over the Rams, and then the Bills 27-25 over the Baltimore Ravens. Let's start with Mahomes. Why not?
Sure.
Because he gathered a lot of attention. Do you have the cut of audio of Troy Aikman talking about Mahomes, Diesel?
We do. It's cut number 2 here, Ben. Can we play the audio cut number 2?
As he brought down Mahomes. Second and goal. Mahomes fakes that little pass and then puts it in his left hand. He kind of flops out of bounds. They're not going to throw a flag. Mahomes trying to get a free first down, won't get it. And a gain of just 2 is To'o is along the sideline to make the stop.
You say Tolo?
To'o.
Trying to draw the penalty. You see that rather than just run out of bounds, he slows down. And that's been, that's been the frustration. And I get it. I understand it. That's been the frustration for these defensive players around the league.
So that was a big-time play. Obviously, the barely a push out of bounds and flop from Patrick Mahomes. That's one big call that everybody jumped all over. And then, of course, Cole, there was the call of 2 Houston Texans defenders converging when Patrick Mahomes slides late.
Yeah,
2
that was the one
Texans
I didn't
converge on each other, end up hitting each other. They barely even touched Patrick Mahomes.
Sure.
That's one that has a lot of people up in arms, Cole. In clip number 2, also here, Ben, Russell Yerk, NFL rules analyst, talking about that play and why it was called.
Joe, I agree. Based on what you saw, it looked like he did come up high with the helmet, but it looked like that first contact was to the upper chest area. I didn't see anything there that supported a foul.
I mean, this is a huge penalty.
Yeah.
Here's another look at it if it's deemed to not be a foul.
Yeah, good point, Joe. Replay can come in and pick up a flag for a foul for high contact to the head neck area quarterback, but if there's any contact at all, they can't pick it up. It looks like there might have been some contact, even if not forceful enough to be a foul. There's enough that they can't pick it up.
I mean, people are, they're getting so exhausted with
They
this.
are, and they
the
should.
eye rolling. It's crazy, Cole. I'm not saying this stat by itself is proof that there's some sort of collusion to put the to keep advancing the Chiefs, but they are now 7-0 in playoff games that Clay Martin is the head referee in. 7-0 when Clay Martin is the head referee.
Clay likes the Chiefs, I guess, right?
Yeah, I mean, are these guys capable of being unbiased? People question that about, is Kirk Herbstreit capable of being unbiased when calling an Ohio State game? Well, is Clay Martin capable of being unbiased when calling a Chiefs game?
Sure.
Because we see it time and time and time again.
You know, it's really interesting, and James brings this up on the YouTube stream. We're live, by the way, on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. James says, Mahomes dancing around baiting defenders and the penalties is so tiresome. And I think that's where we are. Like, I want to go to Mahomes by himself first and say this. Really good players, Diesel, learn how to bait refs.
Yeah.
It happens in basketball. So you have to see both sides. You have to, number one, as a player and a coach, appreciate how a player, even in basketball, football, whatever sport it is, can bait an official enough to get the foul, to get the call. However, on the flip side, from us fans, it is tiresome because you do see him dancing around. You do see him, and Troy Aikman said it best, and I appreciate Troy for this, Diesel. He said, if he's going to dance around and act like a runner, we can't get mad when people hit him like a runner. So in basketball, when a guard is being guarded tightly and the defender's doing a really good job, you'll see a guard bounce his head back. You'll see little motions that try to draw a foul, and Mahomes is doing that. So you have to give him credit for trying to do anything he can to get a penalty to advance the drive. However, for us fans, I agree with James. It's so tiresome to watch.
I think a lot of these refs, Cole, are trained to throw the flag first, and then hopefully, if it needs to be picked up later on by whether it's their own review or whether it's review from the NFL offices, it just feels like they are so flag happy, and it makes the game less fun to watch, less engaging when you're stopping play after play after play after play for penalties. I mean, yeah, you can argue that there's probably a penalty somewhere on just about every play in the NFL with big dudes slamming into each other. But I mean, come on. It's not fun to watch. And it makes me not want to watch the Kansas City Chiefs because I feel like the fix is in. And to me, Roger Goodell has to do something about this. He has to come out and make a statement. He has to talk to his head of officials, something. And the fans have to know about it so they don't feel like the game that they watch, and many, many, many of them are wagering on, are fixed.
Well, I'll tell you this. I appreciate Troy Aikman and Joe Buck for being honest.
Sure.
For just calling it like they see it, Diesel, and not having to feel like they have to protect the shield of the NFL. For them just being brutally honest and saying, and Troy said it, to your point, the NFL has to do something. He said Roger Goodell has to do something in the offseason because it is ridiculous. And Mahomes, he's a fantastic player, probably the best on earth. However, if he's going to do those cute little games and run around and dance around, I think the moment he leaves the pocket and starts doing those certain things, the flag's in the pocket. The flags are in the pocket unless someone stabs him in the chest. He's a runner. Yeah. He's a runner. If he gets hit in the head, by God, he gets hit in the head. If he gets hit in the back and loses his breath, I don't care. He signed up to play football. He's not getting, or he is getting, this preferential treatment that I don't think anybody else in the NFL gets, even at the quarterback position.
Now, Cole, you can look at all of that, and the NFL certainly does. It feels like they're doing a great job helping the Chiefs keep drives alive.
Yeah.
We saw that even when the Chiefs played in Charlotte a couple of months back. It felt like the NFL was willing the Chiefs on to victory so that, of course, they wouldn't be dropped further and further down the standings there. But, Cole, you also have to look at the Houston Texans. They're 5-4 on the road this year.
Sure.
Was this game rigged, or can the Texans just not finish on the road? Are they just bad on the road? I mean, they didn't score. I don't think they scored a single touchdown the entire game. Wasn't it all field goals, or did they miss a PAT there that I'm not thinking about? I mean, they didn't put up 7 in any quarter in this game. Were they just bad on the road? The offensive line for Houston was atrocious. They had like 8 sacks or something like that. If I'm the owner of the Houston Texans and they are not going O-line in the draft this year, go ahead and fire the GM, get him out of there because he doesn't know what he's doing. He's got to find somebody that can protect C.J. Stroud.
Well, Joe Mixon scored 1, and I believe that was the one where they missed the extra point. And then offensive line speaking, Larry Tunsil is a great offensive lineman. He's old. He's been there forever. Listen, the fact of the matter is Houston played like we expected Houston to play based on what they have done all regular season. They at times were really good. However, at times they were also vanilla in their play calling defensively. I thought Houston played well Saturday. I thought they played well enough to win the game. However, a couple of drive extend. Look, in the NFL playoffs, man, when you can have a couple drive extenders, it keeps the opposing team, their offense, on the sideline, and it limits the opportunities. It limits the chances that they have to go down and get some momentum, Diesel. And I thought Houston played good. I didn't think they played great. I didn't have a problem with C.J. Stroud on Saturday. Obviously, going against Kansas City, though, the problem is, guess what? That team, that staff, those players, they know how to close games out. They know how to win playoff games because this is the norm to them. The regular season's boring. They're used to it. They're used to having to step up their game come postseason. So it's hard to do that as Houston. And look, they're going to be fine. Houston's got a great coach and a great quarterback. But, again, the Chiefs, I think people are tired of them when it comes to just the calls that they do get.
Yeah, I mean, C.J. Stroud played okay. He put up 245 through the air. Yeah. No touchdowns. I think C.J. Stroud, again, he's a young player. He's only in his second year in the NFL, taking his team to the championship game or the divisional game. That's a phenomenal thing. You got to give him a lot of credit for that. But what he really needs to figure out, Cole, is he needs to figure out his clutch gene, whatever that may be. He's got to figure out how to turn it on and play his best in big games because he certainly didn't play his absolute best. Doesn't help when he's running for his life the entire game. 8 sacks for the Chiefs defense there. But man, oh man, I mean, he's got to figure out how to make the biggest plays in the biggest games.
It's interesting. We talked about the Lions Commanders, and we all know Washington moved on. I think that's a great story for the Washington franchise with so many firsts being in this NFC Championship, Diesel. So we've talked Chiefs, we've talked Commanders. Eagles-Rams was a fantastic game. Pouring snow. Matthew Stafford. We talked about this on Friday. The experience that the Rams had going up against the experience of the Eagles. Ultimately, though, Diesel, Saquon Barkley was the difference maker. He's the best right now in the business, and he was the reason they won that game. He's the reason they're in the NFC Championship game. We talked about it with Notre Dame not being able to run the football in the playoffs. You got to run the football late in the season. And Philadelphia, they looked really good on Sunday.
Yeah, he was unstoppable. 205 yards on 26 carries, 2 touchdowns. I mean, the Rams couldn't do anything to slow down Saquon Barkley. No. Jalen Hurts was efficient. I mean, he didn't have a phenomenal, big-time game, only 128 through the air, but he only threw the ball 20 times. And when you got Saquon Barkley out there picking up 10 yards a pop, you let Saquon cook.
And Hurts had 70 yards on the ground.
That's big, too.
That is big as a quarterback. When you rush for 70 yards of your team's total offense, they're dangerous. They're not the flashiest, sexiest team. However, with A.J. Brown, with Saquon Barkley and that defense, They're a dangerous team. Later in the week, we'll get into the matchup in the NFC Championship with them in Washington, because that's going to be a lot of fun. But Bills-Ravens Sunday night, the last game we'll touch on before we run to a break and are joined by a guest, Diesel. Lamar Jackson just could not get it done. We talked about this to open the show. When it comes to the blame game, the blame pie, Josh Allen was terrific. The Bills were terrific. However, guess what the Ravens did? The Ravens ultimately made way too many mistakes, and that cost them. And that drop pass by Andrews, Diesel, that was just brutal.
Yeah, it's it was not the most entertaining middle part of that game, especially the third quarter was just plain dull, and it's heartbreaking for those Ravens fans. I've got a buddy who's a Ravens fan, and I was texting him like, "What is this team doing? How have they suddenly forgotten how to play football? How are they this good all season long, and they just somehow forget how to play football? Where was Derrick Henry in this game?"
Yeah,
that's a big time question. To compare Saquon's 205 to Derrick Henry's 84. Derrick Henry's a beast. He should be picking up minimum 115, 125 yards in a game. That's the recipe for being successful. But it's all for naught, man. When you can have an elite offense all season long, you get into the playoffs. If you can't do it week in and week out, you're going home.
Here's what's interesting, though, Diesel, when you talk about the Ravens. Lamar Jackson's in his 8th season. There have been plenty of past players and coaches that haven't won their first championship until later in their career. Michael Jordan, for that case, didn't win his first championship until, I believe, his 6th or 7th season. LeBron James the same way. So many quarterbacks. Tom Brady was in the league for 6 or 7 years before he won his, or maybe I'm wrong on that. I saw a stat earlier of all these players that have not won a championship until like their 6th, 7th, and 8th year. So while we still expect Lamar to be in contention year in and year out, are we worried that time will eventually tick? Not because he won't be good, Diesel, but because of him being a player that runs with his legs. A lot of his game has so much to do with his ability to scramble and hurt you with his legs. We saw with Cam Newton. You get older, your legs aren't as big of a factor as they once were. And
that's where the arm and the decision-making starts to come into play.
That's right. The football IQ.
Yeah, the football IQ comes. He's 28 years old, Cole. I mean, think about it. He's on the wrong side of 25. The Ravens, as good as they are, they got pieces that are going to be going away. Derrick Henry's not going to be in the league for too much longer. So, is the window sort of shutting on Lamar Jackson? And think about this. Has there ever been a player in the NFL who's been as gassed up by the media as Lamar Jackson, who hasn't won anything?
Yeah.
Every year it's let's talk about Lamar Jackson. What happens in the playoffs? He folds like a lawn chair.
Well, he's so good in the regular season, you're just enthralled, right? It's like your jaw drops because you're just so captivated by his excellence. And then, we talked about it in the first segment. The postseason's a different beast, man. It is a different beast, and people have to realize that just because you were great in the regular season doesn't mean you're going to be great. Diesel, though, in the very next segment, we will be joined by our first guest of the show. A little high school football for you today on this Wednesday, as Gaffney High School has named their 17th football coach, Donnie Littlejohn. We do our best to keep this show local, and Gaffney's one of the most prestigious jobs in the state. Donnie Littlejohn, the new head football coach of the Gaffney Indians, joins us next. Hill Road in Greer. That's 1524 Locust Hill Road in Greer. If you're in the area, work or live here, stop by, say hi. We're here until 5:30 today. Furman basketball will cut our show a little short as Furman basketball will tip off at 6 p.m. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. Want to bring in our first guest of the show. He is the new head football coach at Gaffney High School, Coach Donnie Littlejohn. Coach, what does that sound of hearing that you are the new head coach at Gaffney High School? What's that hearing that out loud? What's that do to you, Coach?
Well, it's very humbling. I'm very appreciative. I'm glad to be living my dream. So it's very humbling.
Coach, absolutely appreciate your time. Appreciate you hopping on with us. We sat at this Ingles back during high school football season and talked about, one of the most prestigious jobs, if not the most prestigious job in Gaffney High School football, being open with Dan Jones, obviously announcing his retirement. When you looked at your time at Gaffney as an OC, obviously you played there, played at Furman with the likes of Billy Napier, and you wanted to go back and coach at Gaffney. At what point in your mind, if you can remember, at what point in your mind did you first think, I want to be the next head football coach at Gaffney High School?
Well, throughout this process, it was real stressful. And so just in talking with some of my family members, in one of those moments where, you get real frustrated, I was quickly reminded that apparently this is something I wanted my entire life. He told me, he's an older cousin, he was like, "Bo, you was made for this. You used to draw plays and get on our nerves. You can do this. This is something you can accomplish. Go do it."
Donnie Littlejohn, new head football coach at Gaffney High School. Donnie, obviously the expectations there at Gaffney are just massive. Talk about your desire to really attack those expectations and how you anticipate handling that kind of pressure.
Well, one thing is I played here, so I have that perspective. I've coached here. I have that perspective. I've called plays, and I don't know if you realize, but calling plays in Gaffney, it can be a little stressful. I mean, some people have opinions, so they're real subtle with their opinions. So I've endured that, and so I don't expect it to be any different. And the expectation is what makes this place a great place to be. Some of the other coaches are coming from other places, and when I get down or got frustrated in the past or questioned things, they reminded me that the expectations wasn't like this everywhere else. And so you can either be grateful for it or you can complain about it. And they chose to be grateful for it at the time, and so I chose to follow their suit. I'm excited about it. I don't think the expectations are going to be a whole lot more. And if they do, I guess I'm going to have to get a therapist or, make some more medicine or something. But we're going to get through it.
Coach, talk about the interview process for you because, we heard that there were over 40 applicants for the job. Everyone knew that Dan Jones was retiring at the end of the last season in 2024. You said it. You played there. You coached there. However, Gaffney High School, with it being the most prestigious job, arguably in the state, you probably had an idea that there were going to be some big names apply for it. Did you ever, throughout the interview process, feel good about the job actually being yours?
To be completely honest, I did not. I knew that this place, with the expectations and all eyes being on Gaffney, and one of the things is if you're from Gaffney, it can be an issue. But if you're from Gaffney, it also can be a blessing and something great. But it just depends on who's looking at it. I knew that nothing would be given to me, and that I would have to earn it and go through the process just like everybody else did. And that's fair. The football selection committee, the school board of trustees, the administration in Cherokee County, they wanted to make sure they was giving Gaffney High School the best. And as a resident and as a former player, an employee coach, I want that for this program too. I'm happy and humble that they felt like that I was the person to take that next step.
Coach, can you talk about the identity that you expect to build there at Gaffney? I know obviously you've been around there for quite a while. You've called plays there for a while. What does a Donnie Littlejohn-led team look like?
Well, I would be a fool if I felt like that there has been a problem here. I mean, I'm following the most winningest coach in program history, the most tenured coach in program history. I worked with 3 amazing coaches in the last 3. All three of these coaches have won championships. So, I'm not that arrogant to think that, I'm coming in to rebuild something or mold something or whatever. But I can tell you this, my promise is that I'm always going to do right, and I'm always going to make the best decision that benefits these kids, my coaches, this community, and the school. And what I am going to do is I'm going to give my very best. So I'm going to require my best from every coach, every player. And if that's not what they want to do, then maybe they need to do something else. Because I plan on sticking around.
Donnie Littlejohn, the new head football coach of the Gaffney Football Indians, joining us right here on the Fan Upstate, 97.1 Spartanburg, 97.7 Greenville, and on the free Odyssey app. Coach, I asked you a few moments ago about the moment in time where you thought you wanted to be a head coach. Throughout the process of being an assistant, are there times that you as an assistant coach, whether it's writing something down on a note card or mental notes, do you take notes along the way of what you would want your program to look like if you ever got that opportunity?
Absolutely. One thing about Gaffney and its assistants is we're very opinionated. And it's different when you're not sitting in the chair. And, one day, it's just a small story. One day, me and one of the coaches were in Coach Strickland's office complaining about something because, we complained about everything at that time. And he quickly told us, hey, when you're on this side of the table, you'll look at things different. When you have to make a decision and when you're accountable for the decision, you'll make things, you'll look at things a little different. So I've always kept that in the back of my mind, and just make sure that you're making decisions not based on anger, not being hasty. Make sure you try to see the bigger picture because some of these decisions affect people. And in my opinion, kids and players and students, or even coaches, when it's their lives and their dreams, you got to make sure you're doing what's best and you're making the right decision. And that's just some of the things that I kind of wrote down or think about. And it's every decision, There are some decisions that are going to be made about this program, and it's what are they going to eat after weight training, and what uniform are we going to wear, and just stuff like that matters here. And so just make sure you're making every decision that's for the best interest of the kids and for the coaches and players in the community. I hope that I've been a servant leader, and I want to continue to be a servant leader.
Coach, can you talk about the balance between building relationships with your players versus building relationships with the community of Gaffney? Because, obviously that team means an awful lot to the Gaffney community. Can you go into that just a little bit?
Absolutely. One of the things that's special about this is our players are our community. This community sends us what I consider their best. Whether what we think, the kids come from this community, and I was a part of this community, so I get that. You have to treat them with respect. You have to do your very best. Make sure you're doing what's in the best interest of everybody involved. And, I would be a fool to think that we, myself included and coaches, can do this by ourselves. We need the help of the community. We need the support of the community. And, I think Gaffney High School and Gaffney football has the best fan base ever. Now, they're opinionated, but I think they're the best.
Yep.
So you get what you get.
Coach, do you feel like that the best – you talked about following in the footsteps of Dan Jones, the winningest coach ever at Gaffney. Do you feel like the best days of Gaffney football under your leadership are ahead of the program? And if so, why?
Absolutely. But I don't think it's under my leadership. I'm just the guy that's in the position and have been given the opportunity, have had people show faith that I can do it. I really believe that whoever it is, because of this community, because of the type of athletes that come through, I really feel like anybody could do it. I just hope that I can live up to the expectations and continue to grow this program and take this program to the next level and just continue to mentor guys, because we do realize that football is more about life lessons and teaching people how to be successful on the field, but also teaching them how to be successful in life. And I mean, I think that's a charge and something that we need to do and we're required to do.
Coach, one of the biggest hallmarks of almost anybody that gets hired into the coaching profession these days is adaptability, your ability to change, how you approach individual players, how you approach individual situations to sort of maximize that benefit. What's really prepared you to be adaptable with the types of players that you have on your roster and just being a head coach?
Well, one of the most important things is I used to be one of those players. I think like they thought at that time, or I've actually been in their shoes. I'm not somebody that came from somewhere else, and it was this way there and it's this way here. No, I've been in this way, and I know the expectations, and I understand that when you're not doing very well, that everybody in the community is upset with you. I understand that, when you're not having a good season or you're not playing to the best of your ability, that it's hard to go to grandma's house because, grandpa and uncle and your dad and your cousins, they came through this program and they left you a legacy that they expect you to live up to. So I understand that. So I understand the pressure these kids have. But I also understand the passion that these coaches have. And I understand that this isn't a typical 9-to-5 job. This is a lifestyle. These coaches take it home with them. They don't turn it off. They don't take their phone and put it on the desk and pick it up tomorrow at 9 o'clock and continue. No, we're there for our players 24/7. I understand that part of it. And so I know that everybody's going to be passionate. Everybody's going to give their very best. Or if they're not, we're going to have to find something else for them to do.
Coach, let's talk X's and O's. My last question for you. You were the OC. What does that look like now as you are now the head coach? And then obviously on the defense side of the football, what do you plan to do there as well?
Well, this is a prestigious job, and there's some expectations from the community. So I feel like if I had to earn the position, I think other people should have to earn the position too. I think that's only fair. We have some very, very, very talented coaches on this staff. And so, of course, I'm going to look in the house first and make sure, and try to figure out if I feel like we have somebody that can step up and do what needs to be done. And just because they may not be ready now doesn't mean they're not going to be ready in the future. So you always got to look at that too and try to put together a plan where you're growing the program and also growing the men that are part of this program. Again, I said these coaches are special and they care about this place, and I understand that. But I also understand the pressure that goes along with it, and I would never want to put somebody in a situation that I don't feel like they're ready for. I think I owe them that obligation, and I owe them that doesn't happen. So in the interview process, I said that we were going to, open it up and see, and whatever happens, happens. And the question was, if you plan on calling plays, I do not want to call plays. I've done that for 14 years, and if I can find somebody else to do it, I'll be more than happy to give it up. But I'm always going to put everybody in the right situation.
Coach, that's going to be interesting to watch. How able you are to let go of those play calling duties, especially when you were as successful as you were, to have somebody else calling it. I just want to know, Coach, who was the first person you called to let them know that you had gotten the job, and who was the second person you called?
It was my wife who was the first person, because if I didn't call her, she was upset. And then, we kind of it was a different situation last night. We kind of got called to the district office, so I was in transit as everything was going on. When I got there, a lot of my family members were already there. So I guess my family that was there would be the second people to me.
Well, Donnie, congratulations. You deserved it. You earned it. We appreciate your time, and, we'll be talking to you a lot during football season, especially on the Saturday morning scramble, and we appreciate your time and look forward to the best of the future for Gaffney football.
Thank you so much, Cole. Y'all have a great day.
Absolutely, man. Donnie Littlejohn, the head football coach of the Gaffney Indians, and he's right. There's a lot of expectations, Diesel, but it's going to be a lot of fun to see him to fill those shoes of. You always hate to have to fill the shoes of the guy, and Dan Jones was the winningest ever, so it's going to be tough, but I think Donnie can do it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch somebody who is as familiar with the program as he is. You know,
Sure.
the pressure is it's still there, obviously, but it's different when you've been through that system and you've been around it for as long as he has. It's in some ways there's more pressure, in some ways there's less pressure, in some ways maybe it's more internal than it is external at that point.
All right, top headlines in sports. And then we have the 5 o'clock fight with the one, the only, Melissa Level from Ingles coming up in about 15, 20 minutes. But Daily Wire's on the other side. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson, and this is the Fan Upstate.
That's 844-FAN-PHONE. This is Wire to Wire with Cole, Bryson, and Diesel on the Fan Upstate.
Now, I know a lot of you Tolos are expecting the Daily Wires right here in this segment.
Yeah,
but
screw that.
When an opportunity like this falls into your lap, you just got to let it happen. We have the very first ever live Leprechaun of Lyman drop-in here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. He sits 3 feet away from me. No, he's not 3 feet tall. He's actually a full-grown human being. Leprechaun of Lyman, you are on the air, sir.
Hilly-hoo to you boys. I'm so happy to be here at Ingalls Markets today at 1524 Locust Hill Road. What a privilege this is. But we're not talking about that right now. While my grief is terrible today, I couldn't be more proud of me Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
Really?
I have a bittersweet tune to sing for Marcus Freeman. Oh, Marcus boy, the whistles are blowing from zone to zone and down the white sidelines. The season's done and all the streamers falling, but not for you. So don't feel bad, my boy, for we'll be back and be stronger tomorrow year. And we'll be back, a championship to win. And I'll be here to cheer you on and all your fame. I love you so, old Notre Dame. I'll see you next football season, my boys, and all of you fellow listeners. My agent will be listening on and keeping me abreast of what happens in the off-season. Hiddly-hoo!
Wow.
Can we get a standing ovation?
Yeah,
That was
so good.
incredible. Leprechaun, thank you so much.
There's somebody on aisle 9 turned around and looked. What's going on in the corner cafe at Ingalls
Do
Markets?
we want to go non-leprechaun?
The
or-
Leprechaun's agent? Yeah, he's here too.
Oh,
he's
Leprechaun's agent's here.
Okay,
Good.
so what the heck happened?
Good.
Dude, the Leprechaun just fell on the floor. I think he's hibernating right now.
Weird.
His agent's-
Hibernating like Jordan Love,
That's it.
like Love. Just an awful performance there at the running back position. I mean, come on, man.
That
You get
was
anything going on the ground,
Unbelievable.
you have yourselves a good football game.
I'm gonna be play a little advocate for him, not
Okay.
devil's advocate, because it's Notre Dame. So, he's been battling a knee injury ever since the last week of the season. So I think that's part of the reason why they couldn't get the ground game going. You had multiple new offensive linemen for Notre Dame in that game. So I'm going to be on the advocate side here and just say that's what that part of the reason why they weren't able to run the ball.
Well, we talked about the same thing with Clemson at the end of the year. Them not being able to run the football being a big reason as to why you're not going to be able to beat Texas. You're not going to be able to go, win a playoff game. Look, their defense was bad, but Notre Dame, I felt like at times there was so much on Riley Leonard, even with his legs, that the Ohio State's defense, they're just too good.
They
Too
were.
fast.
I'm not gonna lie. Notre Dame was outmatched in that game, and it was kind of sad to see it end that way with just everything that they had gone through to get to that season. The loss to Northern Illinois at the beginning of the season, and to battle back from that and make it to the playoffs, and then just the games in the playoffs that they had to beat Georgia and have that another comeback win against Penn State. To see it end like that was just so sad, and I really wanted more. I wanted a championship this season, but it is what it is. And
we had the Leprechaun of Lyman here earlier. The Leprechaun's agent now sits next to us. Give us a sense of where your head was at in that fourth quarter when it felt like the comeback was on.
I actually thought with 4 minutes left in the game, they scored that last touchdown. I said, I think Notre Dame's going to come back and win this game.
Yeah.
I really had that feeling. They stopped them on first down, stopped them on second down. It's 3rd down and 9, and then, dang it, Jeremiah Smith makes a big play down the sideline. That just infuriated me, man. Just blown coverage on that last play, and that's all she wrote.
For me, even at the end, I felt like if Notre Dame somehow was going to win, Ohio State was going to have to implode.
Mm-hmm.
There was just way too many weapons with Jeremiah Smith, with the running game, that the Michigan implosion that they had in the regular season was going to have to be the reason. And again, that's not to say Notre Dame wasn't good enough, but when you talk about firepower, I just didn't feel like they ever had the firepower to begin with. And, you talk about teams beating themselves. I felt like Ohio State beating themselves was the only way that Notre Dame was going to win. Now, it just goes to show how good Ohio State was. I mean, you're the second best team in the country, and Ohio State should have beat everybody they played this year.
This isn't like your Notre Dame teams of old, though, where they would get into a big game and get absolutely demolished.
Like the Bama game.
It was starting to look like that by the end of the third quarter. I was like, well, here we go again. It's same old Notre Dame. And then that team just fought back and actually made it a game. And, you look at the past several years of national championship games, Notre Dame only lost by 11. And I know I'm not taking moral victories here. I feel like Notre Dame had a chance to win that game, but Ohio State did definitely have the firepower. They were the better team, and they deserved to win. But
after 2 straight transfer quarterbacks, though, are you ready to have a homespun, homegrown guy that's been in that system for years?
Absolutely, and I'll make my call on that too. So many people in the Notre Dame fan base don't give Steve Angeli. They don't think he's going to be the next starting quarterback at Notre Dame. I actually do think he will be the starting quarterback at Notre Dame. If you look at that before the end of the first half in the Penn State game, Steve Angeli was the guy who came in and drove him down the field last 2 minutes to get a field goal on the board. And that's really what sparked their comeback against Penn State. Steve Angeli, I believe, wrote his name as the next starting quarterback at Notre Dame. We'll see if I'm right or not. So I'm calling my shot there.
We'll also see if the one and only Melissa Level can follow up that performance, as in the very next segment, it's the 5 o'clock fight. Diesel's going to lead things off, and we'll see just how good Melissa Level is. We need you Tolos to be participating, ready to text in. That's next.
Leprechaun of Lyman was here. He was making his case for keeping your head up, Notre Dame fans. Michael in Simpsonville says, excuses, 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 OH.
There
you go.
Hey, look, you got to commend the performance.
It was good.
That was great.
If you could have seen how many people and from how far away they were turning their heads.
Yes.
If you missed it earlier,
Broke
Leprechaun of Lyman was
in the restroom.
the Leprechaun of Lyman was here. He sang a song. Think about the shillelaghs it takes to sing a song in front of an entire store full of people. Because all the way over in the frozen food section.
In front of the entire town of Greer. He just did up. It was fantastic, though. I commend him.
So it takes a big old pair of shamrocks to pull that off.
I can't wait to
play
hear
it
for
you again in the next segment of the show as we wrap things up and then toss it over to Dan Scott calling Furman basketball tonight on the road at VMI. It's time right now, though, for Cole and I to put up our dukes, throw some elbows at each other. It's the 5 o'clock fight.
Nobody's leaving unscathed. 3 topics, 1 winner. It's the 5 o'clock fight on Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson on the Fan Upstairs.
And here's how this goes. 3 different topics. Cole and I must disagree about each question on the show. We cannot take the same side of the argument. You, the Tolos, and Melissa Level, sitting over here to both of our left. She ultimately decides who wins each round of the 5 o'clock fight. You can also text into the show, 7130. Ooh.
You did it. You did it.
No, I got
we
deeper.
both done it.
I got deeper into the phone.
New number.
844 fan phone. Text and call 844 fan phone with your votes.
That's
you can
cool
send them in to us at the Fan Upstate on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, live on the video stream. Let's get into round number 1. The Ravens finally got something going. They got the ball across the 50-yard line. It felt like they were driving down to score and take the lead, and then Mark Andrews gets the ball poked out. Is it fair to blame Mark Andrews for the Ravens' loss, or is it a full team failure?
This one's tough because it does take a full team. It does take an entire team to lose. Now, Melissa, I don't know if you saw the play or not.
I did.
The very end.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
It's the end of the game.
Yeah, hold on to the damn ball.
Thank you. So, look, I tweeted it out when it happened. You have one job. I say, I understand sometimes you don't want to put it all on one guy. I say here it is fair. I completely blame Mark Andrews for the loss, and he should bear the weight of it because at the end of the day, it's like we talked about in the very first segment. They're making millions of dollars to do their job.
To do one little thing.
And you know what? Like, I get that it's cold. I get that it's snowing. But Mark Andrews blew the game for the Ravens. I absolutely put it on him. Diesel, am I wrong?
You are wrong, because if Baltimore could have gotten anything going for the rest of that game outside of that one play, they wouldn't have even been in that position. They had an elite-level offense all season long, and then all of a sudden, Derrick Henry just forgets to show up. 84 yards. He did have a touchdown. That's fine, but they only gave him the ball 16 times. When a guy that good is on your roster, you feed him the football, you feed him the football, you feed him the football, especially when Lamar Jackson can't really get it going on through the air. You give it to your workhorse. You let him play. You let him pick up yards. They were in a position to break the will of this team. It was a failure across the board. Lamar threw an interception. Mark Andrews had his fumble there, but it is a full team failure from the players to the coaches to the coordinators. It's everybody's fault.
The loss is a full team failure. The play is the player's failure. That one play.
Yeah.
Hold on to the ball. You make millions of dollars for one job.
So I understand that, like what Diesel was talking about, the entire team, can have plays throughout the game to where you don't have to rely on that game or that one play. But you are where you are, and Mark Andrews, like, dude, your job is to – and you know what's bad?
Casey up to bat, right? Okay.
It's not like he was having to high point the ball in the back of the end zone and get a toe. Diesel, his fat butt was already falling down like this, and the ball hit him in the chest. I mean, it hit him in the chest, and
Because he wasn't holding on to it. It wasn't actually pulled off from him. It fell off.
It's like there was some kind of,
And by the way, shouldn't they have shoes that they can wear when it snows?
Yeah, they should.
Just put some nails through the bottom of those shoes. They'll be fine.
I think they used to have those things, like cleats or whatever, right?
It's just you know what?
Yeah, I know why teams don't want to use cleats because they get bent and they do the ankle, the ankle. But I get it.
What do we always say about like Michael Jordan and the great and Barry Bonds, the Babe Ruth? They showed up when the moment was bright, when the lights were bright. And Mark Andrews, what he do when the lights were bright? He dropped a football. I mean, it's embarrassing. Yeah. He should be. If I were the coach, I don't think he'd have been on the team plane going home.
Ooh, leave him in Buffalo.
Leave him in Buffalo.
Yeah, maybe he's a spy. Maybe he's a double agent working for the Bills.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here we go. Round number 2. I love asking food questions in the 5 o'clock fight because inevitably this is what brings out the most number of voters. What's better, a buttery short stack of pancakes topped however it is you want it?
Yes.
Or a Belgian waffle topped however you want it?
What?
A Belgian waffle.
We're in America.
Big old zesty waffle.
We live in America, Diesel.
Deep crevices and filled with butter and syrup.
It just named that.
Let me break some
Trump's
news.
going to rename them American waffles.
Let me break some news to you. I don't know if I've ever
Both of America
seen
and American waffles.
American waffle. I don't know what a Belgian waffle is. When I was raised in Bowling Springs, South Carolina, we didn't eat Belgian waffles. I don't even know what a Belgian waffle is. I mean, is it
That's a Belgian waffle.
It's a Holiday Inn waffle.
Yeah, like
waffle.
a Lego by Eggo. Okay.
Oh, so it's a hotel waffle.
It's an actual good waffle.
It's still
not a frozen waffle. It's a big, thick waffle.
You pour it in. You make it a special machine.
No, pancakes, Diesel.
Pancakes?
No.
Oh, my God. What are you, 12?
We live in America. I don't care about the Belgians and their waffles and their thick,
You can make pancakes anywhere.
No.
You can make them out of anything. Seriously.
Yeah.
And you know what? You can get water anywhere, too, and still the number one thing that people drink every day.
So what are you telling me, Cole?
You gotta have pancakes.
You won't eat Canadian bacon? You won't eat Belgian waffles?
No.
If it's not from here, you won't eat it, huh? Sorry, no more pizza for Cole. That's Italian.
Oh, my God.
No more sushi for Cole. No more French fries.
Forget that mac and cheese lasagna. That's it.
That looked pretty good.
No, the answer is Belgian waffle.
Oh,
you get texture.
The Kraft
you get
American
thickness.
cheese is A-okay.
Yeah. you get to like fill every little crevice, every little square of the waffle with delicious buttery
You're such a food
goodness.
snob.
Yes,
I've noticed you've been a food
He's
snob.
bougie.
So what?
Diesel's bougie.
You're a food snob.
There's
Diesel's
not a lot of
very-
things that I have strong opinions on. Food is one of them.
That's not true either. You're very bougie. You're a bougie Diesel.
A bougie what?
Diesel.
Okay, very good. Melissa, could you knock some sense into this guy for me?
I agree the pancakes are the best.
What? Come
I
on.
have to tell you, I'm not a
Come
food snob
on.
either.
Pancakes,
I don't have
baby.
the special like waffle maker.
With
I
with
have
some,
to go to the hotel to have a Belgian
But
waffle.
I hope you know the
Yeah.
Greeks invented pancakes, so they're not American either.
we claimed them.
Yeah, we claimed them. Yeah.
We claimed them.
Okay.
Pancakes, baby.
Ever since we got Aunt Jemima for the service.
Oh, it's the best. It's the best. It's so good.
It's us now.
And you know what? The best part is when people don't realize that when you're eating like pancakes and bacon, you just get the bacon and just absolutely
Oh yeah,
cover
it's that
it
sweet
in syrup.
stuff. That sweet
Yeah,
and
yeah.
savory
Good
thing.
stuff.
Oh my
yeah,
God,
that,
so good.
the Belgian waffle has all that little powdered sugar of it. It's really good too, though.
I'm just not
Yeah.
as fancy and rich as Diesel. That's why I don't do the Belgian waffle. He's bougie and rich. I can't
Well,
afford
the thing
that
is,
kind of
the
stuff.
thing is, you have to have that special cooking instrument, right? Okay.
I mean, a
So-
waffle maker?
Yes.
A special cooking instrument? What are you talking
we
about?
can't afford all your high price.
I have an air fryer that still has a tape across the front of it. Okay.
Hey,
It's
it's
a
okay.
special cooking instrument.
You have to turn it on.
But I have
It's
a
just-
frying pan. I can cook pancakes. All right. That's all I know.
All right, one more to go. Round number 3. Are the days of the SEC dominating the national title over?
Oh,
And Cole, this is yours. Define over.
just like not being every year. Like, yeah, the SEC will still be in the championship, but you know how, like, prior to last year, Michigan winning the championship, it was the SEC every year, it felt like. And rightfully so, because they were the best conference, and I still think top to bottom they are. But just in terms of like their overall dominance of winning championship after championship, are those days over?
So here's a good way to put this, Cole.
Yeah.
If we set the over-under at 2.5 out of 5 years, 2.5 titles every 5 years, will the SEC win over or under 2.5?
I say under. I think the days are numbered on the dominance. Now, the SEC, in my mind, is still going to be the best conference year in and year out. However, with the amount of money that's spent in other places like Michigan, like Barstool money, I just think the parity at the top is going to be a lot more even than we've seen in past years.
I think the SEC is going to just have 150 teams in it, so that's why it's going to win every game. You know?
They guarantee themselves a
So
win.
yeah, I do, Diesel. I think they're numbered in terms of
You're
their
going
overall.
under.
Yeah, I'm going on.
Wow.
Under,
No, the answer is over here, Cole, because what happens every time some major shift happens in college football outside of the SEC? The SEC finds a way to respond and dominate and flourish in whatever environment that is. When it comes to offensive schemes changing, the SEC figured out how to dominate this thing, and they went on a crazy run. We're in a changing landscape of football. Teams are just really figuring out how much money it takes to go win a national championship. You're telling me, I know that there's money at Ohio State. I know that there's money at Michigan and Penn State and Oregon and all that. But all the best players still want to play in the South, and they're going to figure out a way. You telling me that Jim Bob out there running a pig farm is not going to figure out a way to funnel money to his favorite school so that they get the best players? No, man, the SEC is gonna dominate this thing. I mean, you go back historically over the last 25, 30 years, the SEC has been the most dominant, and that is not going to end.
You will not find a more dedicated or awful fan than the SEC fan.
Her words, not
Tell us
mine.
how you really feel.
No, but I'm just going to tell you. I mean, obnoxious, maybe I should say. Okay,
Ugh.
okay. They would take the money out of their couch. They would take the money out of their kids' piggy bank if it meant that they would have a better football team. I agree this time with you, Diesel.
Okay,
Just the money.
I'll take 1 out of 3.
And also, I think they're going to have 150 teams in their conference. So that's
There you go. They just keep on adding,
Yeah,
stack the deck as much as they can. That's the 5 o'clock fight. Who wins each round? Text in 844-FAN phone, 844-326-3663. Tell us who wins each round of the fight. And if you want to suggest one, here's how you do it.
What do you want Diesel and Cole Bryson to fight about next? Submit your topics to Diesel at thefanupstate.com. Subject line, fight on the Fan Upstate.
Texter wants to put me in his place, or my place, Cole. It says pizza is not Italian. Pizza is not Italian. It's covered in Italian sauce, in Italian cheese.
It was
It's Italian.
invented for the New York State World's Fair.
You know what? I don't care who made it. I'll claim to be whatever it is because it's still the best. I mean,
Boom. AI Google says the person who invented pizza is debated, but it's generally agreed that the modern pizza was created in Naples, Italy in the early 1800s.
Chef Boyardee.
Raphael Esposito.
I thought it was Chef Boyardee too. You know what? Diesel made
That's
fun
hard
of me.
to right.
Let me tell you
Boyardee.
something. Melissa, Diesel made fun of me earlier today. I had a great New York style pizza from Ingles Markets earlier today, and he made fun of me and said I had the taste buds of a 5-year-old.
I didn't know Oscar Myers was from New York.
Okay, it was
Well, what-
it was a Lunchable.
Right. Oh, yeah. Okay.
It was a Lunchable.
Okay. Well, see, that's
From
different.
Ingles.
No, that's different.
You
okay.
pour the sauce on.
See now who's bougie.
You pour the sauce on.
That's different. Okay. All right. I'm not exactly sure there's anything real in that one.
And Melissa says, okay, your food opinions are invalidated, Cole.
They are.
She switches her pick to me.
You know, are you too good for Lunchables? I mean, Lunchables are still good.
They're not. I don't know if there's anything that's really good for you that could be eaten for
Well,
lunch.
I didn't eat them because it was good for me.
Dude, you've got to walk over to the sub department and get a wonderful boar's head sub.
You know what? That is the smart decision.
There you
I
go.
know.
Yeah.
I just wanted something small, but it was still good. I'm still Lunchables. Am I winning all the votes? Diesel?
Well, John Dog says Clemson doesn't win another natty for 5 years or more. That's not really the topic, but hey, John Dog, appreciate you getting your opinion in. JT and Greer says Diesel takes all 3 in a sweep. Yes.
I think that was a typo.
No, it's not. Phil Knight, can Mike drop everyone? He said he wanted a national championship before he goes to meet our maker, says Michael. Rick in Greer says Cole wins, and he brought us some donuts earlier.
He did.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Rick.
Yes.
Corn Chip
Paid
says
you off.
Diesel wins rounds 2 and 3. About to go get Mexican with the family since you guys made me hungry.
Well,
All
that's
right.
what we do. That's what we do.
Well, all right.
Michael
Is
asked.
that Taco Bell?
Yeah, no kidding. No, don't hate on that too, because I like Taco.
Of course you do.
I love it. Cadillac, formerly CJ from Greer, says Cole 1 and 2, Diesel 3. Cole wins. One texter did say Cole would Lane Kiffin Mark Andrews and leave him. What? What am I missing there? Texter, Michael, help me out.
There's a lot of references there that we're
Yeah.
not really picking up.
They said Rev Red said Mark Andrews' blood sugar was high. Not his fault. Raised diabetes awareness. I know you shouldn't laugh at that.
Okay.
Did he really say his
All right.
blood sugar was high?
Okay. So if it's low, maybe you get him. I'm going to get like orange juice. Okay.
Y'all
With that
in the
much
NFL.
sticker on his
Don't
hands, how
give
did
him
he
the
drop
damn
it?
ball. Okay.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you. Hey, how about this? The play before your new tight end, Isaiah Likely from Coastal Carolina, caught the touchdown
Or
pass.
how about you say, I'm sorry, Coach, my blood sugar's low.
Yeah.
I shouldn't hold the ball.
It's ridiculous.
I know I'm not being. I'm
Go
not,
sit your ass on the
I'm
bench
not-
and get some orange
I'm
slices, would
not
you?
being. That's a real thing. But I do have to say, you have decisions to make at that point that you can make.
Before we run to a break, because we do have Furman basketball coming up, Melissa.
Yep.
Earlier we were talking about the Ingles Deli.
Right.
There are renovations going on in a lot of Ingles.
That's right.
My Ingles, my Bowling Springs location,
Yeah.
it looks phenomenal.
Doesn't it's going to be really cool that's going to have your deli's going to be expanded with
it's-
everything on one
It's already on the
side.
right side.
Right.
It is so nice.
And your
It's
Starbucks
so nice.
will be huge with kind of like that powder
Yes.
with a big long,
Yes.
huge extra cafe
I love
area.
it every day when I walk in.
You're really going to see some good stuff in it.
All right,
Yeah.
Melissa, we appreciate
Thank
you. We're going
you.
to run. We have a treat from Leprechaun of Lyman that we had earlier. We'll have that for you. And then Furman basketball next, right here on the Fan Upstate.